Hi, Malka. Shalom, Malka. I can't quite hear you. I don't know why, but you're on mute.
No, I unmuted it. I'll just say it real quick. I sent you something about the ZOA. Mort Klein is going to be on a call tomorrow. If you have time, I send it. I think yours came back. Razy has the information. I'll try to send it back. I don't know why your mail comes back, but I'll try to send it back. It's a Zoom tomorrow night.
Okay, thank you for letting me know. I will definitely take a look at it.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing that with me.
Okay.
I'm just going to be doing a couple of quick things before we
Yeah,
get started.
go ahead. I just logged in.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And that's a very popular way to phrase it. Steve, you talk about divine. I love that. Good political strategy is something that's true, popular, and your opponent is not close to advocating. You know, every other planet issue is that Joe Biden didn't just negotiate all these deals. It's not that he just was in favor of the absolute destruction of the American class. No, it's even worse than that. His family made money off of it. That his son went on Air Force Two all the way to China and secured $1.5 billion investment is something that he was so unbelievably unqualified for. So Joe Biden came to
Rabbi Mendelson, I can't hear you. I just want to say
How are
hi.
you, Rabbi Teldon?
You're awesome.
You're a beautiful Jew too. I love you, brother.
Amen. One day I want to be like you. Maybe when I grow up.
You can get there with a little bit of effort and a lot of love. Trust me, it could all happen. You have your sights set on a very good ideal.
Good luck. Thanks for the text.
Thank you very much.
And I'm willing to sponsor a new backdrop.
Oh, thank you. If you can help me with that, I would love that.
Yeah.
Are you on a backdrop?
No, this is real sperm.
Got it. Okay. Look.
No, for a phenomenal fee, I'll custom make sperm based on color.
Sounds great. I
Love
know
you
always have an opportunity to try to sell me some of your garbage, but it's fine.
Bye.
Okay, bye. Rabbi Kunin.
Hold on 1 second.
Thank you.
Hello. Okay, now the
We're
audio.
going to be starting in just a couple of minutes. We're experiencing some technical difficulties. Hold the line over there for 1 minute. We're going to be starting shortly. We're going to be starting shortly. There are some technical difficulties going on with the computer of Rabbi Kunin, but we're getting those things fixed, and we will be with you guys shortly to get started. In the meantime, thank you to those of you who are here with us on time. We're going to give everyone another 2 minutes before we try to make sure that everything is working. Please stick with us. We're going to get started in just a couple of minutes. Okay. And if you're in a quiet space and there's not going to be noise in your background, feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like to engage in the conversation this evening. It's going to be a lot less formal than usual. It's going to be very informal. You're welcome to stop and ask questions in the middle if you'd like. If there's something you want a further discussion on, you're welcome to break up the conversation and keep it interactive. That's the style of a Farbrengen. It's one big happy family. This is not a presentation of sorts where somebody gets up and talks. It's going to be more interactive in nature. Please help us keep it that way. We will be starting shortly. Thank you all so very much for joining us. We are still dealing with some technical difficulties, but we will get over these. If there's noise in your background, please mute yourself so that way the rest of us don't need to be listening to the noise in the background.
Can you open this? Give us a couple of minutes, man.
Rabbi Kunin,
Yes.
I'm going to get started with some initial introductions and thank yous, including thanking you. And then when you get on, you'll join us at that point. But it's,
Oh, we got it. Oh, we got it.
you on?
Oh, I said we can't hear on the machine.
Can you hear me? Rabbi Kunin, can you hear me?
Yes, I can't hear you yet, no. Speak now, can you hear me?
I hear you, but I don't hear you on the computer. If you can unmute yourself, that would be great.
Can you unmute it?
We are just about to get started.
Well, now we can hear.
You can hear me? Can you see?
Yes, I can hear you.
I don't hear you through the screen, through the computer, and I don't see you either. I'd like for you to be able to take your computer and click that you'd like to your video on. I'm asking you to, there we go, Rabbi Kunin, and I'm asking to unmute you. Could you unmute yourself? On your computer screen, there's an option that says unmute. On your computer screen, there's an option that says unmute. Can you click on that?
Now go to
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, we're gonna get started. Thank you all so very much for joining us here this evening for our Zoom video conference with the one and only Rabbi Shlomo Kunin, Director of Chabad of California and the West Coast. Rabbi Kunin began in 1965 when he was appointed by the Rebbe to lead the Chabad, to be the lead Chabad Rabbi Shliach to the West Coast, and he built one of the first of over 5,000 Chabad houses worldwide. Under Rabbi Kunin's guidance, he has a network of over 200 Chabad Jewish community centers throughout California and Nevada, known as Chabad houses. Chabad of California's mission is to reach out to others with acts of goodness and kindness. I've seen myself on many occasions, Rabbi Kunin walking down the beaches of Southern California, handing out food to the needy, to the homeless, to the sick, to the weak. Rabbi Kunin himself is engaged in all of the activities of Chabad of California. In fact, this week, I spoke to a friend of mine in Berkeley, California, who's a Chabad rabbi there, who told me that Rabbi Kunin calls him on the regular to make sure he's doing okay. West Coast Chabad is a community-based nonprofit organization whose efforts are rooted in traditional Jewish values, and many of its programs help the needy regardless of background or belief. Chabad now runs the largest network of non-sectarian educational and social services under Jewish auspices on the West Coast. Chabad of California, under Rabbi Kunin's leadership, is a division of Chabad International, one of the largest religious Jewish organizations in the world. Chabad embraces a philosophy of study, meditation, and social outreach, combining religious study with proactive community involvement. Chabad's growing array of educational and social services programs has made it a dynamic force in modern Jewish life, perhaps the most dynamic. Before we begin our conversation and discussion and farbrengen with Rabbi Kunin, Please mark your calendars for another one of the upcoming events that we have on Thursday, July 2nd, an event titled Jewish Poetry with award-winning poets Yehoshua November and David Kaplan. Please join us July 2nd at 7:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. But getting back to our program, it is a unique pleasure to host Rabbi Kunin, who is an inspiration to thousands upon thousands of Chabad rabbis all across the world, including myself. He has built with his hands, through the inspiration of the Rebbe, so much Jewish life and so much love in the state of California. And the world owes a debt of gratitude to him for his heavy lifting, his hard work over many, many decades. Rabbi Kunin, thank you so much for joining us. Please let us all put our hands together for Rabbi Kunin for being here with us this evening.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here with all of you. Albeit with the Zoom Smoom and all this other stuff, it was a very, very nerve-wracking process to have a caregiver taking care of my wife. She's having a poor slimmer, other million but and finally get us on the screen. The major point of everything is we have a Rebbe. And our Rebbe, we are celebrating yesterday, going into the 80th year of the Rebbe coming with his Rebbitzin to America. For these 80 years of our Rebbe, the Rebbe has taken over the world. I'm a third-generation American, as you can see, a third-generation American born in the Bronx, New York. My father was born in Manhattan. My grandfather was a great chassid of a man of Tunin who helped buy the Chabad International Headquarters, 770 Eastern Parkway, in 1940. There's a lot to talk about. But the
Rabbi
major
Kunin,
important...
to get started, my first question for you this evening is, tell us about your first memories as a child with the Rebbe and how the Rebbe impacted your life from that very young age.
I was 11 years old when I first met the Rebbe. I went into the Rebbe's room. The Rebbe had a discussion with my parents. I was a little kid, 11 years old. My brother was 12. And how the Rebbe looked at us and said, now it's time to go to the Lubavitch Yeshiva in Brooklyn. And the Rebbe said, I know it's far away. Now the Rebbe's talking to my mother, who we never knew, in fact, but she had a whole bunch of brothers and sisters who were killed in the Holocaust. She never told us about it, never at all. The Rebbe was a father to her. And the Rebbe looked at her and said, not to worry. The yeshiva is a great place. They have a dormitory, oh, they have a gymnasium, and the food is great. And my mother's eyes teared up. But Rebbe, I'm gonna miss them. The Rebbe goes like this. Remember, people waiting outside to come in. Here is a couple from the Bronx, two little kids. The Rebbe's taking the time to explain. Well, you see, Shabbos, they'll be home. They would have gotten home already on Friday. So you saw them Friday and Shabbos. They'll go away Sunday. You would have seen them on Sunday in the morning before they left. So it'll be Monday, Tuesday, you'll come and visit them, and you could bring them sandwiches, right? And then you'll be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, they'll be home again. That was the first that I saw of my Rebbe, talking to my mommy as a daughter, telling her not to cry, explaining to her how all of this works. And that was my introduction, the first time that I met the Rebbe.
So at 11 years old was the first time, and how long was your visit with the Rebbe during that private meeting? And were there any other memories that you have from the love, the Liebschaft, the kindness, the compassion that the Rebbe showed you and your family at that time? And share with us going forward some of the other early memories that you have with the Rebbe from a young age.
Well, when I go into the Rebbe before my bar mitzvah, right? And my bar mitzvah was held in Seagate, New York. Seagate was the kind of the richer area, the hook of Coney Island. We would go there for summer. We go for Orthodox shul there. That was my bar mitzvah. We go into the Rebbe, And the Rebbe looks and says, your bar mitzvah is going to be on Chayel. Chayel is the day of the Alter Rebbe, the founder of Chabad. The Chayel, the day that brings light and life into the Alter Rebbe. We saw the Hilke Boshem. So the Rebbe says you should be a warm and lebedik. You should be a warm and lively Jew, but you have to do what you can do to be a lebedik environment, to be lively and warm. And then when the Rebbe wrote in my Bar Mitzvah letter, the Rebbe writes, as ich habe dir gesagt, sei, wenn du bist gewöhnt an mir, as I told you, when you were by me in the private audience, this is your mission in life. To do whatever you can do. Be a warm and lively Jew. That's my earliest memories of the Rebbe.
So the Rebbe told you that your calling in life is to be a varma and a lebedik yid, a warm and a lively Jew, and certainly that has come to bear. Your entire life has been filled with liveliness and energy, and with warmth and love. It's anybody could testify to that. Anyone who knows you to some degree or another knows the warmth and lebedikites that you march through life with. So you get married, you get bar mitzvah. Tell us about your bacher life, your years as a teenager in the Rebbe's presence, and what inspired you ultimately to move out and to become a Chabad rabbi. How did that come to be that you went from being someone who was a young child, inspired by the Rebbe's kindness, to dedicating your entire life to the Rebbe's mission, to the Rebbe's vision, to the Rebbe's cause?
Because I've always felt myself as a child of the Rebbe. The Rebbe is my tati today. No good tati, no good father would leave a child alone. So I always have, since I was a kid, that feeling and understanding. But my Rebbe is my tati. He's my father. He is the one guiding me through life. And then, when I was a bacher, so the first thing is, what you have to do is you have to study. You have to study. You have to get up in the morning. You have to study. You have to study Nigla of the Torah, the revealed portion of Torah. You have to study Chassidus. You have to come to the Rebbe's Fabrengen. But besides all of that, I felt another need. So I was the same as the rest of the guys. There's only a handful of us. There's not a lot of people in 770 at that given time. There were maybe a couple dozen of us, maybe a little more. But be that as it may. But something else really gave me a greater strength in connection to the Rebbe. And I see the Rebbe walking out in the snow. Well, how could you leave the Rebbe walk in the snow? So, if there's a blizzard, you get shovel, and you shovel path. The Rebbe would walk from 770 Eastern Parkway, long Eastern Parkway to Kingston, then down Kingston to President, to the Rebbe's Sulchan, his mother's home to visit. Well, we would go with the shovel and making an 18-inch way for the Rebbe to go. But then, they said a gigantic blizzard is coming. We are only simple human beings. Simple human beings. What are you going to do? So we went downtown with Better Baumgarten's, one of the Rebbe's early emissaries to Argentina. He was already back in LA, back in Brooklyn. And we went, I bought a snow machine, snowblower, which the snowblower blows like a big lawnmower and has rotating blades in the front, and it shoots the snow off to the side. Great idea. We did it. Snow was coming. We did it. Great, great, great. Now I said, there was have to come down the stairs of 770. So the stairs will have to do by hand, but we use the snow machine to clean off that big ridge in between staircase and staircase. I'm going with the snow machine, figure we have 10 minutes before the Rebbe leaves. All of a sudden, I give a look, a light has gone off in the Rebbe's room. Oops, here I am in a snow machine, which has its own traction, blowing snow. The Rebbe's coming. I don't want to put my face in the Rebbe's face. That's not honor of our Rebbe. You always hold yourself like this. So I turned to the snow machine, off to the right. There's blowing snow down towards Brooklyn Avenue on its own traction. And the Rebbe walks out. I'm looking for the side. My face is down in the snow. It's on the corner of my eye. I'm looking. All of a sudden, there's the Rebbe looking at me. I'm looking and smiling. So finally, I had to open up and go like this. The smile on the Rebbe's face, I remember today. You see, that was a memory as a bocher, right? Then it wasn't safe in the streets of Crown Heights. What are you going to do? It's not safe. What are you going to do? Those years were the days of literally the pogrom in Crown Heights. Very dangerous. We were trying to smash the Hasidim out of the neighborhood. It's a very difficult thing. Okay, so what do? We founded a group of young guys would walk behind the Rebbe. And I got a lot of ligament lighting nightsticks, which we could definitely take somebody down, even if he had a knife or anything else along those lines. And I told a couple of my friends how to use them. We would walk behind the Rebbe. One day in 770, the phone rings. Hello, this is Schneerson from President Street. The Rebbe's Rebbetzin, a very humble lady. Rebbe's a Chaim Mitzvah. Don't be such big chassidim and walk so far behind my husband. Please walk directly behind my husband. These are memories when I was a bocher. And then when we had to go to camp and build a building in 7 days, a lot of stuff. But the bottom line is, when you're connected to the Rebbe is always with you. And all of you out there that are joining us here tonight, which we'll have a chance to bring a little bit later about, you have to know the same thing. Your connection to the Rebbe. And how do you connect to the Rebbe? By doing his mitzvahs. You put on film for 1 minute a day. 1 minute a day, how long does it take? That's a connection to God. That's a connection to the Rebbe who started the campaign to get people to put on film. When your wife lights Shabbat candles, same thing. And when you put a couple of pennies in the pushkin, like a charity box, the same thing. Married woman uses the mikveh, same thing. That's connection to God. But God always has a Moses, a Moshe Rabbeinu. In our generation, our Rebbe is Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, our teacher of this generation. And even though it's 25 years since his physical passing, the Rebbe is with us strongly, more and more, day by day by day. And that's what drives me. That when it came, Gimel Tammuz, I was in Russia fighting for the Rebbe's books, which I'm still fighting for today, the Schneerson collection, which because of our fights, that we started tens and tens of years ago to release the Rebbe's books imprisoned in Russia. Rebbe's books imprisoned in Russia. I was in Russia when this happened. Came back, I was the last one in the Rebbe's room, coming directly from Moscow. Then I said, what's the first thing we're going to do? I looked at my sons, what's going to happen? In our worst nightmare, this is not possible to have happened. And it did. I said, you know what, boys? We are going back to California, back to the place of our mission. And then we got into the car, my son, Rabbi Levi, in Malibu, and the car went to the right, to the left, to the right, coming and going and going and coming. We pull up in a place called Malibu. This is in the Shiva. The 7 days of the Rebbe is physically passing, only physical. And now the Rebbe guides our car into Malibu. There I see a sign next to the ocean on a building for lease by the Kanheim Real Estate Company. I know Georgie Kanheim. I called him over and says, Georgie, I need your place for a shul right away for the Rebbe. When do you need it? I said, for this Shabbos. And in the Shiva, we opened up the first of the new institution after the Rebbe's physical passing.
Wow, that was very, very powerful. Everything that you shared, the stories as a bacher, the stories of walking behind the Rebbe and keeping the Rebbe safe, the snow blowing. It's apparent to everyone that Rabbi Kunen's love for the Rebbe and the Rebbe's love for Rabbi Kunen was mutual. And the overall feeling of a child to a father is something that Rabbi Kunen talks about so often. And it's apparent to everyone how much faith, courage, optimism, energy you have in all of this that you've done and you continue to do on behalf of the Rebbe. tell us the story of you moving out on shlichus. I do want to get back to the story of the books in Russia, because that's a very interesting thing you touched on. And for our audience who has any questions about what Rabbi Kuna is saying, if there's something that you're not familiar with or you would like further clarity, send in a question to the chat box and we'll integrate the questions into the overall discussion and dialogue. Please include your questions in the chat box so we can make this as interactive as possible. Or better yet, if you have a question, just open up your mic on the phone and say, Rabbi Kunin, I got a question for you, and ask your question. We're really informal this evening. It's a farbrengen, it's casual, it's a soulful discussion about our connection and our lessons and the inspiration that we've received from the Rebbe. And we want everyone to feel that they're a part of it because it's our evening. It's not an evening for Rabbi Kunin or myself or anyone else. It's an evening of our connection, each of us individually, to the Rebbe. And so if you have a question, just ask it and we'll include it in the conversation. But tell me about Rabbi Kunin, tell me about the story of how it came to be that you moved out on shlichus. What did the Rebbe tell you during this period of time? What were the answers that you got from the Rebbe? How did it come to be that you ended up moving out on shlichus to the state of California, starting off in 1965, opening up just one Chabad center, I guess at some point, and then becoming the proud, loud, huge impact and influence the Chabad of California has today under the Rebbe's leadership, but with your hands and feet on the ground. You're the one who actually day in and day out interacts with the shluchim and has an annual budget of several $100 million that you oversee and ensure that it continues to grow. But it started somewhere very small. It started with one Chabad. When you moved out in 1965, tell us about the beginning of your shlichus and how that came to be.
Well, first of all, when I was a bacher, I went for a summer visit, Merker Shlichus it was called, to California. With Rabbi Lenin Minkovitz. We stopped from place to place to place. I actually became a shliach before then. I first said, good night, mommy. Good night, dear. I actually became a shliach when I was a bacher. I get called by Rabbi Chodek. I was born in the Bronx, as I said before. I helped make the first mitzvah tank, which was then called a library bus, which was an army surplus bus. There was a Mr. Klein and some son who came up with the idea, and we went with Simcha Pekarski. We went and got an army surplus bus, had it painted up. That was the first mitzvah tank that there was. I would drive that to the Bronx. I would drive it to the Bronx. It was a mobile library. All the publications of Chabad Lubavitch was in there, and we had seats so people could come in and look. Then I get a call from one day, Rabbi Chodek. I was still a bacher. I still was studying in the yeshiva. And he calls me into the office, and he says, you're from the Bronx. I said, yes. Could the Bronx use a shliach of the Rebbe, an emissary of the Rebbe? I said, of course. Well, what do you think? And the conversation went on. And then he said, well, what do you think if a bacher could do it, a non-married person could do it? I said, anybody can do what the Rebbe wants. Are you willing to take the shlichus in the Bronx? I said, of course. That's the first word you have to say. Not maybe, if, could be. I'm thinking, yes. Okay. And now we got to talk to the yeshiva. He said, long story short, the Rebbe's answer came back to talk to the yeshiva. Rabbi Mentlik was the dean of the yeshiva then. May his soul rest in peace. And I got permission to go Thursday night. I would go with the mitzvah tank, leave Thursday afternoon. We'd have an event Thursday night. Friday, I would go from place to place with the mitzvah, with the mobile unit in the Bronx. In the winter nights, Saturday night, we would have an event, a book fair, we would call it, and one more on Sunday. And Sunday afternoon, after the last of the events, I would drive back to my studies. So I was a shliach already of the Rebbe in the Bronx, but on this way of doing it. Then we went to California, we came back, and I'm introduced to a wonderful young lady, 17 years of age, and we went out 4 times and then posed a romantic question. Would you like, we should write the Rebbe about getting married? And my 17-year-old Rebbetzin says, yes, of course. But I said in advance, that's only if you want to go on shlichus, because if not, that's my life. Of course I want to go. And then Rabbi Chodakov offered us California, because Rabbi Reichik was here in California, an emissary of the previous Rebbe. I want to remind, or just tell the folks out there, there were only a handful of the Rebbe's emissaries in America. Only a handful. Berel Shem Tov, Avramo Shem Tov, Rabbi Korf, Rabbi Feller. That was Florida, Detroit, Philadelphia, and
Minnesota.
that was it. Minnesota. So there were 4. That's all it was before. And everybody thought of us as people who lost our marbles. So in Detroit, there was a shaver who had a synagogue. One of the supporters of the Rebbe, okay, it made some sense, etc. Well, everybody left at us. You're going to go to California. You'll come back in a week. They'll eat you alive. Are you kidding? So we got married on the Rebbe's day of marriage, 14 days in Kislev. And I studied a half a day in the Kollel, in the postgraduate school of Lubavitch. And a half a day, I would go with the mitzvah time to the Bronx. Then, in the month after Pesach, the Rebbe sent us to California. The Rebbe used the words, Einnehmen, ganz California. You shall liberate. That's an expression from the 60s. Many of you may not have had the knowledge of the 60s, but it was beautiful years. Real kooks, people looking for the real truth. A.B. Hoffman, burn, baby, burn. So we didn't say capture. We say liberate. So I went with my Rebbetzin. We drove all the way from Los Angeles, the inner road of California, the 405, all the way up to San Francisco, Sacramento, all the way up, and down on the coastal route, stopping city after city after city. I take the Rebbe's words very seriously. The Rebbe says, Einnehmen, you will take all of California. That's what the Rebbe means. And that's how Shlichus started. Now, I'm sitting in Los Angeles. There's no Lubavitcher shul. First thing I did, because everything has to do with action. Talking, blah, 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 blah. Oh, I'm thinking about, I'm contemplating, I am having a meeting, is all worthless. It's action. So the first Shabbos we came, I gave out, I was the head of Mississippi Shabbos, the Shabbos clubs of Lubavitch in New York. For a few years, we made flyers, children, candies, wafers, stories, Jewish songs, and gave it out. We came on a Sunday, gave it out during the week at a couple of schools right around the Young Israel. That was there of Hancock Park, which was on Melrose Avenue in Los Angeles. And we lived nearby. We had an apartment we took right away in the Fairfax district, which was a Jewish district then. And we opened up Mississippi Shabbos, the first Shabbos. People got very nervous. Boys and girls. My wife is teaching the girls upstairs. I'm downstairs in the shul. But people got nervous because they're seeing action. How is he doing it? He's probably not doing it right. That was my welcome to Los Angeles, the first bomb. After that, I went to open up the Religious Release Hour, which I worked very closely with Rabbi J.J. Hecht, which we take kids from the public schools for 1 hour a week. And that from there went forward with a massive fight with the establishment of the Jewish community, who said, no way, you can't do this. I said, excuse me, it's legal. I can quote you the Supreme Court rulings on this. And I'm going to do it. And the three folks of the Community Relations Committee, I remember the names, Goldheimer, Roos, and Posner, many years ago, 1965. They start to talk to me, we're going to stop you. And I turn to them and say, hold on. Chutzpah, it's goal. You're sitting in front of a rabbi without a yarmulke on your head? We're so sorry. They picked up right away the phone and buzzed next door to board of rabbis who had a couple of tent yarmulkes, you know, it's a yarmulke that sits on your head like a tent because you wear it only once, either at a bar mitzvah or a funeral, thing like this. Now they're sitting wearing yarmulkes and they're giving me the speech. So I said, you know what, folks, because I believe always in being kind, very political, correct, right? So they may have finished their statement. They said, we'll even give you money to open up an afternoon Hebrew school. I said, that's so kind of you. I said, have you finished what you have to say? They said, yes, we have. And I said, let me tell you something. Close your eyes and imagine a 200-car freight train coming down the tracks real fast, going through Los Angeles, right? Big engine in the front, that engine pushing from the back, zooming down the track. Zooming down the tracks. And then you're standing on the tracks. So now it depends, what do you want to do? The best thing would be, you step off the tracks, and as the train is going by, you jump on the train. You join the train. That's great. I'll make release time. You will pay for it. Or, next best option, you will get off the tracks. So the train will continue to go. That's also tolerable. The third option, you'll stay on the tracks. I'll run you over like a 200-car freight train. That was my introduction to the establishment in the city of Los Angeles. So I'm giving you just a little bit of background from the first year. But then, there's no Lubavitcher Shul, and we would go, every time we would come, we'd go into the Rebbe. Go into the Rebbe. So there's no Lubavitcher Shul, because it wasn't Rabbi Reich's job. His job, which he was sent by the previous Rebbe, his job was to reach out to the Holocaust survivors, not only in Los Angeles, he had lost his family in the Holocaust, his wife the same, not only in Los Angeles, but across America. His job was not to make a shul, a synagogue, or anything else. So Rabbi Reich calls me up one day. He says, Rabbi Tarshish is moving to Israel. He wants a stipend on a monthly basis because he has no children. And we can open a Lubavitcher shul. I said, let me ask the Rebbe. Going to the Rebbe, Rebbe looks up, and the Rebbe says, a shul, Shleimer, wie is gezegd halten? A shul, how will it support itself? How will it support itself, a shul? One down. Now, when the Rebbe gave you an answer, the answer was no, but you want to burn your fuses. So it would give you a logical answer, right? But you knew that the Rebbe just didn't, he wanted something else. The Rebbe wanted something else. Now, wonderful friend of mine, Marvin Goldsmith, whose grandson is very, very active, Berghoff, in Chabad.com, so on and so forth. He was a Baal Tshuva of mine. We put out a big lawyer, still around today, thank God. And I get an offer. There's a school for sale, a swimming school on Robertson Boulevard. Wow, what a great idea. It will be a swimming Talmud Torah. You'll charge less than the other swimming schools. You'll have 1 hour swimming for the boys from 8 to 9 with a proper lifeguard. You'll teach the boys from 9 to 10. The boys and their teachers go home. The girls come 10 o'clock, swim for an hour. 11 o'clock learn with their female teachers till 12 o'clock. Brilliant idea. And on paper, it pays for itself. Even makes a couple of bucks. Going to the Rebbe, brilliant idea, right? And I never have my own opinion. You go to the Rebbe, you go with a clear mind. Rebbe, whatever you want is fine with me. Just tell me what you want. The Rebbe looks up and says, Shleimer, was hat man sagen? Shleimer, what are they going to say? Kommen sie gehen, Junge Mann. The young person came. Come, he's here a few months. He already went out and spent $100,000. Ah! With both hands. So now you know the Rebbe wants something else. Okay? Fast forward. So now it's the hippies. And I got along very well with them. Why? Because I was viewed as a Meshuggah with my black coat and pants. I was invited to speak in a Reformed temple. The rabbi comes marching in the last minute. And he says, let me introduce to you this young man. I was then 25 or whatever the years. He's a chassid. Take a good look at him. They're a vanishing breed. I'm not even sure he speaks English. But he said he could speak a little bit to be able to talk to you. Now remember, I'm a third generation American. This guy's from Hamburg in Germany, from the graduates of the Reform movement. He didn't even give me Shalom Aleichem. 50 kids, there's a confirmation class there. I got a satchel filled with film, ready when the time is proper. And this guy is saying in front of all the kids, I don't know how much English he speaks. So I turned around and looked at him. I said, Rabbi, let me tell you something. I'm from the Bronx. The only thing with my English is I'm a Yankee fan. From the baseball, as you folks may know, there's such a thing. And I'm a Yankee, and I speak with a Bronx accent. So I speak English with a Bronx accent. You speak English with a Hamburg accent. Whose English is better? He says, young man, you're going to come to my office. It'll be my pleasure. So now I'm going on, I'm singing with the kids. I'm giving out Shabbos candles in this Reform temple to the, what I call, to the little girls. And tefillin on the kids. It's a machaya. It's wonderful. I don't look at the clock. It's moving, right? We're having a ball. All of a sudden, this guy comes storming in. Do you realize it's 10 minutes overtime? I said, I'm so sorry, Rabbi. What's this doing on the heads of my children? What is it? I said, you're asking me what it is? You're a rabbi. You should know. It's tefillin. You should know it's tefillin, it's called. It binds the heart and soul to God. You will come to my office. Finally, I took off all the tefillin calmly, said goodbye to the wonderful kids, and I go marching into his office. La, 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 la. He is burning. The smoke is coming out of his ears, snorting out of his nose. Before he could say a word, I said, you want to know something? You're worse than an average bigot. He looks at me. I said, yeah, you have an African-American secretary, right? To prove you're a liberal. But you decided to judge me before you even said hello to me? Shame on you. He was taken aback, and later he became one of my best friends and supporters. He brought me back again and again and again to the temple. Why? Because when you talk honestly from your heart, and you talk with respect, albeit respect a la Kunin, but whatever the case is, that's what works. So now it's the hippies, right? So I'm invited to UCLA. It's even on their sites, whatever it is, my speeches from the early years. I don't have to listen to it because I never changed my speeches since the 60s. But it was the beautiful days. Burn, baby, burn. You could smell the hippies before you could see them. Garlic on the belt to ward off the witches. So I was invited to speak at UCLA once. I bonded with the kids. The word got out. This guy can relate to the young people because nobody else can. Why? Because they would walk in to their temples and say, Rabbi, let's talk about God. And the rabbi would either say, I don't know, or I deny, instead of saying God's name the proper way, because they never thought about God. And here was this guy that's able to relate to them. So we had a 2-bedroom apartment on Stanley Avenue. The building is still there in a duplex. And one Friday night, we had the girls coming over, the hippies. We took our mattresses off our beds and put it down in the living room. The hippies would sleep on the floor. And I would take them Shabbos to shul to the women's section. Next Friday night would be the boys, right? But you got to remember, the hippies of those days, like a Dov Letterberg, was a giant, great Hasidic Zayda and television promotion person in Israel with a long beard. These people would drive a yellow car painted with flowers on it. You pull it up in front of in front of the house, you got to understand my landlord was not the happiest guy. More so, we couldn't pay him the $125 a week that we were supposed to pay him. I mean, a month. We were supposed to pay him because I got $75 a week from headquarters. So whatever the case, he says, you got to move out of here. Got to move out of here. I said, I can't find a place. I'll find it for you. I haven't got money to move. I will move you. That's how much he loved me. And definitely the hippies and the hypocrites. In fact, when I brought him into shul, there was a Rabbi Ginsburg, Holocaust survivor. All of the people in shul got so nervous because you could smell these guys. They didn't believe in taking showers or anything. Garlic on the belt to ward off the witches. And all of a sudden, in the middle of all of this, I got to move. So then I said, you know what? I got a great idea. Why don't we look for a place near a college campus? Because Chabad or Lubavitch, in America, we were known as Lubavitch, not as Chabad. And even in Europe, it was Lubavitch House. Chabad, first name was utilized in America, not Israel, was at this Chabad house. There was no such thing. So whatever the case is, I get Rabbi Levitansky, Olav Shalom, Victor Kurtzman, Olav Shalom, and we get into our green Army surplus truck. They used to pull, again, the gigantic mobile unit. I'm not going to tell you the whole story of that one. But we would have 35 desks in it for the release time kids to go to after we won the release time battle, which was something else in its own right. And we get into the truck, we drive down to UCLA, drive around. There's a sign on the building right across the street from UCLA. Parking lots, but right across the street from the campus. How much is it? I give a look. I've done pretty good with real estate. So many square feet. I write down the number. Who has a dime? Let's call the broker. I go through my pockets. I haven't got a dime. Levitansky didn't get paid for a month. He didn't have a dime. Kurtzman didn't have a dime. Now you're going to buy a building. There's the Rebbe about to tie it up in escrow, in contract. And then, but nobody has a dime. I said, wait a second, we have empty soda bottles from the release time. It was 5 cents a deposit on each bottle. We went to Safeway down the street, we cashed in the bottles. I called up the broker, it goes to voicemail. I don't believe in voicemails. So now, I called up Marvin Goldsmith, who was a real estate broker and a brilliant lawyer, who he should live a long, healthy, and happy years. I said, Marvin, I gotta come over. And I did my math quickly in my house, in my head, as I'm driving the truck. I said, there's got to be around there's got to be around $2,225,000. That's what it's square footage, which I figured would cost. Coming to Marvin Goldsmith, I lay it out. I said, it's going to be $2,225,000. He said, wait a second, let me run the numbers. He runs the numbers. He says, no, it's $225,000. I said, Mazel Tov, we made $2 million in your house. He said, but you haven't got 10 cents. Where are you going to find $250,000? I said, Marvin, let's go step by step. I got to ask the Rebbe. First, we got to tie it up in a contract. I'm not going to take the whole time telling you the story. Miraculously, how we did it, tied it up for $125,000, all payable in 30 days. I should take a moment to tell you this part of it. Or should I just finish it and go further?
Continue. You're doing well.
Oh,
Continue
okay,
the
so
story.
let me continue. So I haven't got 25 cents. I called up Alan Lazaroff, who was then, I helped his family, his son, and he was a supporter of Lubavitch, the brother of M.S. Sheva. Call up Lazaroff, who was a Chabad Israel supporter. I said, Alan, I want you to come with me because you know much about real estate. You're a gigantic businessman. Atlas Coveralls was his company. He's a multimillionaire. One of the founders of Sinai Temple, president of the Israeli bonds, that type of a person, a wonderful guy. So he says, you know, I'm a supporter of Israel. I said, Al, let's go together. Let's negotiate. Let's talk to them. It was a Pi Lambda Phi fraternity, a Jewish fraternity. One of them is still alive, actually, Mitch Eggers, God bless his soul. We come in for the meeting, but as we're coming into the meeting, so Lazaroff, as we're going up in the elevator, says, okay, Shlomo, how much money do you have? You're coming to negotiate. I said, I haven't got a dime. Meanwhile, the elevator stops straight into the lawyer's office, and he's fuming, but he's a businessman. We'll see what's going to happen. So we sit down with these guys. I tell them what I want to do. You're a Jewish fraternity. We want to save these kids because that's what it was. All the frat houses, fraternity houses, were out of business. They were occupied by hippies smoking drugs, alcohol, the rest of everything else. Okay, and it was a liability to them, not an asset. So I'm talking. I said, you know what? We're a Jewish organization. You're a Jewish organization. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Let me pay it out, $500 a month. They said, what? $500 a month? You know how many years it's going to take? I said, he says, we can't do it. But what about $125,000 all cash within 30 days? They say, let's go talk about it. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there with Lazarov, and he's fuming. He's not saying anything because he's afraid they're going to listen, which they would have. They come back in 2 minutes. It's a deal within 30 days. But you got to give us now $5,000 non-refundable deposit. I said, I got a boss in New York. I got to talk to the Rebbe. But I only talk to him if I have a contract. That was the same thing I forgot to tell you before with the swimming school we had. Signed up. So you walk into the Rebbe with something, not with dreams. So they say, okay, we have to start with 5,000 in escrow. Okay, so here's the contract. Okay, give us a check. And I go like this. Check. I haven't got my checkbook. Al, could you write him a check for $5,000? He sees right away, I cut the price in half, right? He's a businessman. His hand is shaking. He takes out the checkbook and he writes a check to them to go into escrow for $5,000. And it's all good. Everybody's very happy. And we get into the elevator again. He goes ballistic. I thought rabbis are not supposed to lie. I said, what? You're accusing me of being a liar? Shame on you. He's taking it back. Now the elevator lands on the first floor. We're walking. We came together in the car. We're walking towards the car. He said, wait a second. I love you. You know that. I asked you in the elevator going up if you have any money. You told me you don't. Was that a lie? I said, God forbid. Okay. Then you told them that, yes, you're going to buy it for $125,000. Is that what you told them in 30 days? I says, yes. So you lied to them. You know you haven't got a penny. Where did you get it from in between? I said, from you. From you. He became my president, raised the money within 30 days, and that was it. That was the first Chabad house in the world. But first you have to ask the Rebbe. Going to talk to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe says, Chabad house. Because you see, the students had to have a name they could relate to. Chabad is an acrostic of 3 Hebrew words. Chachma, wisdom, Bina, understanding, Das, knowledge. Chachma, Bina, Das. Chachma, Bina, Das. So, that's an answer to them. It's intellectual. They can talk about it. The Rebbe says a Chabad house. You should call them all by the same name. Chabad. So then when a person travels from city to city, just like Gimbals, this may have been by Fabrenga. I'm giving you a few Yechidus with the Rebbe mixed together, because that's how it is in my mind. You should call them all by the same name. They will spread from the west to the north, which was the next Chabad house in the world, was Berkeley. That's what we used to call it, Berkeley, California. That's where all the berserks were. And the next one, the Rebbe said, will go to the south. That was Rabbi Fratkin in Diego. And the Rebbe says, finally to the east, where we really need them. That's how the Chabad House on College Campus movement, using that name, started. So that's the history of that. And I could go on and on and on.
Rabbi Kunin, let us open it up to the public. I see that Simcha in Laramie wrote in a question, but I would rather if you would ask your question directly to Rabbi Kunin. For those of you who have questions, you can ask your question directly to Rabbi Kunin. Simcha,
is he wearing a cowboy hat?
hope he's wearing, Simcha is a Lubavitcher who lives in Laramie, Wyoming, and a warm neshama, and I'm hoping that he'll ask his question
Okay,
to us
please.
publicly. Simcha, can you hear me? Simcha, are you there? Okay, I don't hear Simcha, so let me ask the question myself. He writes, can you please tell your story of Pesach when you were a teenager, 16 years old? And thank you for your work to get the books out of Russia. Rabbi Kunin, would you like to address your story of when you were a teenager on Pesach? And before you go into that, if you can tell us how many people join Chabad of California for Pesach before coronavirus on an annual basis, approximately how many Jewish people are serviced by Chabad of California?
Thousands.
How many
Thousands across the state. Well over 10,000. Much more than 10,000.
Is it 20,000? Is it 50,000? Is it 100,000?
It's hard, it's a hard question to ask.
Okay.
Because we take reporting and all of this, and I'm so busy opening up new institutions. We opened up a few of them today. You see, because the Rebbe says, do everything you could do to bring Mashiach, the Rebbe says. So it means you have to open up another Chabad house, another Chabad house, another Chabad house. You see.
Rabbi Kunin, if you can tell the story of the Rebbe's 70th year, his birthday, and explain to us that Farbrengen at the same time that you're also answering the question of when you were 16 years old. Two questions in one.
Okay, so let's do the 16-year-old question first.
Okay, great.
So since I had to go back to the Bronx, and I would be one of the first people online to be able to get matzah before Pesach that was baked in the afternoon, baked in the morning of Pesach, mitzvah matzah, and the Rebbe would give it to people. But since I had to travel 1 hour by train to the Bronx from Brooklyn, I was one of the first people online. And the Rebbe would stand by the door, and the Rebbe gave me matzah, and the Rebbe looks up and says, "You're from the Bronx. You'll please go to the Americas, to the office. They'll give you an address for someone that I'd like you to deliver matzah to." I was honored. The Rebbe was asking me to deliver matzah. I joyfully went to the Americas office, look at the address. It's on the other side of the Bronx. No problem. No problem. So before I leave, I take a dime, call up my mommy, who's a very worrisome, wonderful, and my tati, wonderful people. Mommy, the Rebbe is sending me on the shlichus to the other side of the Bronx. Don't wait for me with the Seder, with the Passover meal, till I come back, because who knows how long it's liable to take. I don't know what's going to unravel itself here. Meanwhile, I got to get some money for a taxi. I figured I will get on the train, get to where I have to go, Pelham Parkway, in the East Bronx, and I will take the taxi back after delivering the matzah. Good idea. Well, guy had a different plan. So the train breaks down before it gets to the station. The time I get to the station, it was the time to take the money out of my pocket to put it on the station so people could grab it and start walking. So I'm walking. People are walking too. So where's this address? Oh, it's a long way to go. I keep walking. People are walking back from shul. I'm getting closer to where I'm closer. And now it's dark already outside. And one person says to me, "Yeah, you'll go 2 more blocks here on this street. That's the address." Okay. I come there. There is ramps in front of the building instead of stairs. The plot thickens. Okay, so I walk up the ramp, and there's ramps instead of stairs with all types of handles, this and that. I walk up to the 3rd floor, and I come up to the apartment. I come to the door, and there's something smelling. It sure didn't smell like knedlach. It really didn't. It smelled like an oink oink. That's what our non-Jewish people eat for breakfast when they go to the various restaurants. And Pesach at night? Oy, oy, oy. I knock on the door. "Who is it?" I said, "The Rebbe sent me to you." "The Rebbe." He opens up the door. This guy with a gigantic stomach comes out, tattoos on his arms, rye bread on the table, Pesach at night. He said, the Rebbe sent you to me? Such great love you see in his eyes. The plot thickens. I said, yeah, I brought matzah for you, but could you do me a favor? Could you get rid of this rye bread, if you could? And do you have a closed package of cups? There were plastic cups, then it was Dixie cups. I happen to have one. I said, you know what, why don't you call? He says, wait a second, let me get my wife and my children. In walks a lady, very visibly in the last months of pregnancy, and two blind little girls. The plot thickens. We sit down around the table, and I'm telling the story. They knew nothing. Giving them water to drink instead of wine, such and such and such. And I do this, and it was a wonderful Seder. And I kind of felt super inspired because I was the Rebbe Shliach. I was a 16-year-old kid, a official Shliach of the Rebbe, to this incredible story. I gave them the matzah, I said the brachas with them. I gave them brachas. Now it's getting very late. I see the kids are dozing off. So I said, okay, you know what, let's say a quick blessing. After they ate the matzah and all of this, I said, you got to understand what how great the Rebbe's blessings are. And the mommy took the kids to go lie down. I looked up at this gentleman, who I had already put on a shirt, by the way, and I said to him, you want to give me a little bit of background? You don't have to, but if you could. He says, yeah. We have two blind children. It's a genetic disease we have. We have two blind children. My wife became pregnant by accident. The doctor we went to see said, you have to abort the child. For sure, this child is going to be born blind. And then we walked out of the office, and we were very distraught. Kill a baby, maybe you would be able to see. Bring a baby into this world, to bring another blind child into this world. What do we do? I'm so distraught, I go to I work in a slaughterhouse. And I was a tanner. And those of you that know what that means, you pull off the hide off the animal while the body was just slaughtered, so it can be pulled off before it becomes too hard to be taken off the animal. It's not exactly the most rabbinical profession or a white-collar profession. Simpleton of a person. He was very troubled. Chabad rabbi was kosher slaughter there. He said, what's going on? He tells him. He said, why don't you write a letter to the Rebbe? He said, what's that going to help me? He said, whatever the Rebbe will answer you, that's what it's going to be. You have everything to gain, you have nothing to lose. He writes the whole letter to the Rebbe. Right away comes back a letter from the Rebbe says, you're going to have a child that's going to be a sighted child. I don't be a child that will be able to see. I don't remember if the Rebbe said it will be a boy or not. I don't remember that. But it'll be a child that will be able to see. Now the Rebbe sent me with a matzah to him. He became a completely new person. They already had made up their mind to listen to the Rebbe, but now it was such incredible joy. Ultimately, the Chabad rabbi, they took over the case, but was there on a day-to-day basis with him. It was a boy, he arranged the bris. He became, the boy was sent to a Jewish school, the whole family became frum, and I was in touch with the son for years till I lost contact of him. And that's my story, my introduction of being a shliach of the Rebbe as being a 16-year-old. And that's the first part of the story. Now we come to the shlichus, which is my life today, and is my life. And there'll be a whole new publication coming out before Gimel Tammuz, which will tell the whole story. So I'm not going to take the time to tell the whole story, but shortly a very long.
Rabbi Kunin, if you could talk a little bit about the 70-year birthday of the Rebbe,
Okay.
and before you get into some of the other questions, and then
Okay.
we'll open it up again for people to ask questions. Please prepare your questions We would love to hear from you. Anyone is welcome to ask any question that they have. If you have a personal question, if you have a question about Chabad, if you have a question about Rabbi Kunin, if you have a question about anything that was said tonight, question about the Rebbe, please, whatever question, it's open mic night. Whatever question you have for Rabbi Kunin, he's more than comfortable to answer for you. In addition to being a man of action, he's also a great scholar and a student of the Rebbe's great works and great teachings for decade after decade after decade. So if you have any questions for Rabbi Kunin, please feel free to ask him. Rabbi Kunin, please share with us the
You
story.
know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get a silver cup. I'm going to say l'chaim with you. Hold on 1 second.
Please. So for those of you who have questions for Rabbi Kunin, send them into the chat box so I know you're ready to ask, and then we'll call on you the moment the Rabbi Kunin has an opening. We'll try to continue as many questions as we possibly can. I'm sure it's obvious to those of you who are listening, who are with us, that Rabbi Kunin is a man of great passion and energy. He's a powerhouse. He's a fearless person. And it has been said that if Rabbi Kunin would be the Chabad rabbi in New Jersey, the head Chabad rabbi in New Jersey, and Rabbi Herson, who's the head Chabad rabbi in New Jersey, would have been the head Chabad rabbi in California, if they were mixed, there would be 10 Chabad centers in California, and Rabbi Kunin would have long a time ago have already been in jail. That's what they say, because he's a character and he's fearless and he goes into this with so much energy. But it comes all from a place of love that he has for the Rebbe, love that he has for every single Jew and every single human being. And I've seen it with my own eyes. Leon, do you have a question? Did you try to just unmute yourself? L'chaim Rabbi Kunin. L'chaim v'livracha.
Let me tell the story of Shnas HaShivim. Because that's how when the Rebbe took it, changed the whole world. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I hear every word. Please.
Why do I see a Z on my screen?
Yeah, it's going to be like that for a couple of minutes.
I don't mind. It doesn't bother me.
Please share your story.
So what happened was, till the Rebbe's 70th birthday, in California, we had the Chabad House, first one in the world at UCLA. We had in Long Beach, the Long Beach Hebrew Academy, which is a story in its own right. There was no Orthodox shul at all in Long Beach, California. Obviously, the release time, the Talmud Torah, and other programs. But as far as cities, there was Long Beach and Los Angeles. When I had gone into the Rebbe, one of the Yechidus, I asked the Rebbe from the early days, what does the Rebbe want me to do? Does the Rebbe want me to build the base very strong in Los Angeles first, and then take the rest of the state? Or does the Rebbe want me to do the outskirts first of the state, and then this? And then the Rebbe spoke about that I heard there's a lot of Jewish students in Berkeley, etc., etc. So then I understood right away that the Rebbe's thinking was to get the other cities around the state, the big places, and then build the core stronger and bigger like we have today. So now, I came in 1965, the Rebbe sent us. Now it's 1970 or 71, which is Shnas HaShivim, the Rebbe's 70th birthday. I'm not good with math, so it's either 70, 71, or 72, whatever it was. Makes no difference. Shnas HaShivim, the Rebbe's 70th birthday. I'm by the Fabrengen, and I brought a group of college kids from Los Angeles, and the Rebbe starts to speak. And the song that was being sung for the Rebbe's birthday, which Rabbi Tarashevsky made this song, was B'cha Hashem Chalasisi Aleveisha Ve'elam B'cha. Very lively song. The words mean B'cha Hashem Chalasisi, in you, God, I put my trust. Aleveisha Le'elam. I will never ever be shamed. And Rebbe came in, there's a video of this, you can find it online, of that Fabrengen. Rebbe came in, and it was a special feeling. It was very, very special, strong, special feeling, okay? That was the Fabrengen. Then it went wild with this song. And Rebbe made with his hands and his arms. I see it today, videotape in my head. And Rebbe said, now that everybody is so happy, and the happiness is, now I have something to say. People have said that since I'm 70 years old, now it's the time to retire. And they want me to slow down and retire. The Rebbe said, first of all, makes no difference what your passport says. Depends how you feel. And depends what your goals in life are. So the Rebbe said, so therefore I want 71 new institutions. 71 institutions, I'm not good at math, but 10% of 71 would be 7 institutions plus a little bit. I quickly scroll a note to the Rebbe, which was either passed up to Rabbi Goner at the Fabrengen itself, or went to the Rebbe's room, I'm not sure which one of the two it was, saying to the Rebbe, I take upon myself at least 7 new institutions. At least 7 new institutions. And we're dancing, and now they went upstairs and we're dancing, and there were not that many people left, but there were some emissaries left. We're sitting around in a circle. I said, okay, guys, I'm taking 7. Hi, how many are you taking? How many are you taking? And on and on. And one guy gets up and says, what a chutzpah, what goal? You're going to tell the Rebbe which institutions to open? I said, what do you mean? That's what the Rebbe said. No, you can't do that. So I said, what should we do? We should raise $7 million, give it to the Rebbe, let the Rebbe open up whichever institutions he wants. I said, but that's not what the Rebbe said. What the Rebbe says he means whatever means he says. And in that year, thank God, we opened up not 7 institutions, but 12 institutions. And there was a book that's online, which is the Ayin Aleph book, which was the book published for the Rebbe's birthday the next year, with the pictures of the rabbis and the institutions that we opened. And from that Shnas HaShivim, from Northern California's first place in Berkeley, which I grabbed a gentleman that was working in a Chabad rabbi was working in a Talmud Torah. I said, listen, we're going to the Rebbe. We bought the Rebbe a crown, beautiful crown, for his own personal Sefer Torah. You see it in all the pictures. The Rebbe holds the Sefer Torah, you see that crown. We went into the Rebbe's room to present it to the Rebbe as a birthday gift. So I grabbed this guy by the arm. You keep saying you want to be a shliach? If so, come in with me. Now remember, this is the next night after the Fabrengen. Pulled him in, so to the Rebbe, this is going to be our first opening, and this is going to be the first shliach. That's within 24 hours. That's what it takes. Now in Northern California, I can't even count how many branches offhand we have. I know down in the San Diego area, it's 26 branches. All of that came from the celebration of the Rebbe's 70th birthday. But you see, you have to take the Rebbe's words seriously. And when the Rebbe says, I want 71 new institutions, that's what he means. When the Rebbe says it's up to all of us to do what we can do, do what you can, bring a Mashiach. Do what you can do to bring Mashiach. What you can do is another act of goodness and kindness for the non-Jews, the 7 Noahide commandments, the Sheva Mitzvah cards that were given by the Almighty God to the entire world to do, simple commandments, to know that there's one God in the world, not to blaspheme his name, etc., etc., etc. Jewish women to use a mikveh, people to have mezuzahs on their doors. We have the responsibility to finish the job that Rebbe gave us to do. And when you work on this, and you know something, when I say putting on film, some of you that are watching say, "Hey, it takes me so long so I can take apart the film and wrap them up again. And maybe I'll do it wrong. How can I do it wrong? Ah, blah, 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 blah." No, 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 no. Make a nice drawer, keep it open. Put your when you put your film inside, take them apart. Have a nice doily or napkin to cover them nicely, and just take them out in the morning. Close the drawer. Come in the morning. Don't do it in the bedroom. Do it in the living room or the dining room. Just put it to say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. That's all that it takes to do. I'd love to hear tonight commitments from you folks in honor of the Rebbe's Day of Light that's coming up. I want to hear action, commitments. How many times a week can we count on you to put on film? Not 7, please. Never 7. Because Shabbos is its own sign. Do it 6 days a week. You can't do it 6. Do it 5. Make it auction. Can't do it 5, 4. But I mean a commitment. I'm gonna try my best. I'm really gonna see what I can do. Your words so moved me. My heart is pounding. Don't let your heart pound, you get a heart attack, God forbid. Just chime in on the Zoom or whatever you have and say, I have now taken a commitment to put on film X amount of times a week. And you make sure you follow through to do it. You'll see the light it's going to bring into your life and to your home. Or the ladies that are watching, I'm going to light Shabbat candles. Yes, I will. Or I can't do it every Friday night. Start by once a month. The partial mitzvah plan. Knowing that's only partial that you're doing. That's what you can do, every one of you. That's what you have to do. Because look at the suffering. Who could ever imagine a time like this? Everything's shut down, locked down. Nobody knows what the next thing is, what it isn't. It's Corona here, Corona him, this and that. Locked down in the houses, the schools out, all of these things. It's a very special time. It's Mashiach's times, the Messianic era. Who could ever dream that we can go to the moon and back? We can explode the world. We can't deal with one little bug. That's what the fact is. So all of you out there, get moving, guys. Get ladies, get moving.
Rabbi Kunin, your inspiration is very, very special, and it's practical. It's not theoretical or some kind of moving words. It's get the job done. Do another mitzvah, learn a little more Torah, help another Jew, help this world to become a better place, a place that's ready to accept Mashiach. All of these things are so practical and down to earth. The Torah lays it all out for us. The Rebbe guided us in such a practical, down to earth way of how we can change the world for the better. And each and every one of us could just tap into that 1 second and our lives will be changed for the better forever. Rabbi Kunin, tell us, you know what, please, if anyone has a question, come on mic and ask your question to Rabbi Kunin. Rabbi Kunin,
and don't have to be afraid to ask me a question. Either I'll answer, yes, I'll answer no, I don't know, or I don't want to talk about it. Just as simple as that. So you can never, don't be embarrassed to ask me any kind of question. L'chaim, l'chaim.
Rabbi Kunin could sometimes get a little wild in person. You have to look out for his love. He might give you too big of a bear hug or something. But over the Zoom, you really have nothing to worry about at all. So please, if anyone has any questions for Rabbi Kunin.
I don't have actually a big question, but Rabbi, you're very inspiring. And I listen to Dennis Prager all the time, and I know him personally. And I know that
he's a very dear friend of mine.
Yes, he always brings up.
He is a co-chairman of my telethon.
Yeah,
he always
talks
the telethon after this question.
Yeah, thank you for everything you're doing on the West Coast, and thank you. Very inspiring evening. Thank you.
Thank you. God bless you.
I'm from Philadelphia, and I'm right now in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, near Zalman and Razy. Visiting with my family for medical reason, but I'm basically from Philadelphia, and we have some wonderful Chabad house in Philadelphia area.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Anyone else have anything that they want to comment or talk about or ask about before I get on to some of my other questions that I have ready for Rabbi Kunin? Please fire away. If you got a question, come on and ask any question you'd like. Leon, do you got a question? Steve, do you got a question? Art, do you got a question? Anna, question. Malka, you already talked. Any questions, please?
Rabbi, I don't have a question for you, but I will like to tell you that I'm sitting here in Champaign-Urbana, Illinois, and it has been very inspirational and exciting to hear from you tonight. And you may very well know, since you are your age and from Crown Heights, Rabbi David Taktel is our Chabad rabbi at the University of Illinois, but you may know his father, Shlomo Taktel, who still lives in New York.
Yes, wonderful man. Wonderful man.
The whole entire Tachtel family is a beautiful family with brothers serving as shluchim of the Rebbe all over the world, including in Chicago at the University of Illinois in Champaign, as well as in Berlin. You have a Tachtel, you have them, they're all over the place.
Right.
They're all wonderful. Rabbi David is a very good friend of mine in Champaign. He's wonderful.
Okay, well that's my, Rabbi's been here since 2003 when we first opened the Chabad house. And he took this, there's a community of about 4,000 students all coming in from Chicago to the University of Illinois. And when he came in 2003, of course, they were all going over, some of them were going over to Hillel, but from a little house that he had with the Rebbe, we took a minion of about a half a dozen to now on a Friday night, and he will have anywhere from 75 to 100 kids at a Shabbos dinner on Friday night. He's just marvelous. And we're now starting a campaign to build a new Chabad house, because every year when we do, whenever there's a holiday, we have to rent a tent because we've outgrown the house and we can't get everybody in there. So
You should go full steam ahead with the campaign. God will help you. You'll be successful.
Any other questions or comments for Rabbi Kunin? Please open your mic and ask anything you'd like. This is open mic night. We're really trying to make sure that this is as interactive as possible. I see some names on here that don't really have a full name, or it's hard to understand who this is. But open up your mic if you have a question, fire away, ask anything you'd like. Rabbi Kunin, first of all, l'chaim v'livracha. We're having a chassidish of Arbrengen, because in just a few days from now is Gimel Tammuz Yom HaKadosh, and it's the day that reminds us of our connection and our responsibility to continue the Rebbe's vision in this world, to bring Mashiach and to change the world for the better. And we can do it. We can do it. We can accomplish it. One mitzvah, one connection to Hashem at a time, one bettering ourselves and the people around us at a time. But you've often chewed off, let us just say, more than maybe you were ready to handle. The story you told about purchasing the building without a dime in your pocket. This has been the story of your life in many ways, to jump in fearlessly and fight with everything that you have to be able to change the state of California, and you've accomplished a tremendous amount with that motto. But I am sure that there have been times during your many, many years of leadership where you have found that you were in a very difficult position, where you were very nervous and concerned and worried, and you had nowhere to turn, and you turned to the Rebbe. Tell us about those moments, that raw, honest moment of feeling like everything was falling around you, perhaps. I don't know if you've had that, but I'm sure you've had. And the Rebbe's guidance and love giving you the strength to be able to move on.
First of all, the words nervous, concerned, etc., are not words that are in my dictionary, as far as that's concerned. To say pressure, that's correct. Say pressure, that's correct, yes. To say Rebbe, hold me. We all have those moments. Rebbe, keep me close. We all have those moments. I'll tell you one story, or two stories actually. So one story was after Shnas HaShivim, when we had opened up all these new institutions. And then we raised a lot of money. Benjamin Swig in Frisco, Northern California, Fairmont Hotel, the Haas family, Levi Strauss, down in Diego, Maurice Simon. We raised a lot of money, bought buildings, but we were short $200,000. You go into the Rebbe the next year, Purim, before Yudalef Nissen, and I never believed in asking the Rebbe for money. I never believed in that. Coming to the Rebbe, and we would write reports. Coming to the Rebbe, nothing about money. And as the Yechidus is finishing, the Rebbe was very, the Rebbe was very, it's hard to translate the word, but it was was a very special moment. And the Rebbe says, "Was ist Shlem, ich have Geld? What is it? Shlem, you need money?" I go like, you don't talk to the Rebbe, I go like this. Wie viel darfst du, how much do you need? 200,000? What do you need? 200,000? And remember, I didn't write any of this to the Rebbe. Van Forster, when are you going? I open my mouth. When the Rebbe tasted. When the Rebbe says to go, I'll go. Aber wenn es getagt for him, when were you thinking to go? Morgen in the früh, tomorrow morning. Kum Shleimer, the Rebbe motions with his holy hand, opens up the drawer, and starts counting money in the drawer. And the Rebbe's counting. Counting. And Deborah motions for me to come over. Smiling, Deborah puts together a pile of bills, gives me a pile of bills with a smile. And Deborah says, now there's 200,000. Here's $200,000 for you. And Deborah smiles and says, this is not 1,000. This is only 1,000. But you have Naya stores, you have these new bills, $100 bills. Kannst jeder verkaufen, jeder Star for 20,000. You could sell every $100 bill for 20,000. That'll give you 200,000. Should be without slacha. I'm running out. So exciting. First thing in the morning on a plane. Call my office first, get me a driver, bottle of Crown Royal, honey cake. I don't want to talk to nobody. I'm going out, go to the first person, walk into his office. Lester Finkelstein, very, very wealthy person, multimillionaire. Steel rolling mills down at Alameda Street, downtown Los Angeles. He was a supporter of ours. I say, Lester, I have a special blessed bill from the Rebbe. If you need something, you write me a check for $20,000. I'll make sure the Rebbe takes care of it for you. Okay, take care of my daughter. What's your name? The mother's name. Write down the serial number. You'll see it's going to be perfect. Bye. Call up New York. Rebbe always on the phone. I was by Lester Finkelstein. This is his name. The mother's name. Daughter's name. He wants a bracha for the daughter. She should go in the right direction. I go to the next one. Roland Danal, may he rest in peace. He was a man that had come from a Holocaust survivor family. He had another partner, and I met them in the early years. I mediated some issue for them. And I told him, you know what? You're starting off in business. I have a deal for you. I want you to give me a check for $20,000. I promise you back that you'll get at least 100 times as much. I'll make sure with the Rebbe. You're sure? Give it to me in writing. I gave him a letter in writing. called up New York, this is what I promised, and so on and so forth, till all 10 bills were gone in a day and a half. Another person had a problem with a daughter, another person had a problem with grandchildren, whatever they wanted. And I would call up each one, etc. Call up on each one to New York, tell the Rebbe what it was, and within a day and a half, I raised all the money. Fast forward, we opened up more institutions coming next year to the Rebbe. And the Rebbe, I don't say nothing, going to the Rebbe. And before we went, we were broke completely broke. Because we opened up all these institutions, you have to be able to. At that time, we supported all of them from here, till the Rebbe gave us advice how to break it up. And we owed $250,000. On top of that, Samuel was a Holocaust survivor, he had no family. He died, and we had to bury him. And there was no money. And here we are sending out 7,000 Shalach packages. That's what the Rebbe wanted for the birthday gift. Little things, not looking for Hamantaschen, 2 Stellador cookies, 2 Barton's candies, 2 pennies, a little sheet, a box this thin, this wide, in the middle putting everything together with Levitansky. Get a call from the hospital. This fellow had a note, if he dies, you're the rabbis, we should call you. Now we have to go look a way to get him buried. And I got to go to New York. We have to get out the packages. It's not, it's pressure. Pressure, no. Concern, this, that, blah, blah, blah. We wrote that in the report as well. So I come into the Rebbe. Same story, the Rebbe looks through the note. I don't write about the 250. And the Rebbe says, what's your story? I write to Geld. What is it? You need money again? Wie viel darfst du? 250,000? What do you need? 250,000? Once I getan for a year, and that became very serious. What did I do for you last year? And I don't say nothing. The Rebbe says, du hast zugesagt Jeden. You promised Jews promises. Did you not? At women's chesros du zugesagt. On whose account did you promise? I'm standing like this. And the Rebbe says, was ist geworden? What happened? Then I opened my mouth. And I went through miracle after miracle, after all 10 miracles. Miracle after miracle after miracle after miracle after miracle. And the Rebbe said, you can promise the shred of Midrash. In other words, the Rebbe's father-in-law, the previous Rebbe, of Midrash. Let me grab this call for 1 second. May have to do with my wife, just for 1 second. Hello? I'm in the middle of doing a Zoom for Brengen in Wyoming. So I had no emergency, right? 8 o'clock. I don't even know what you're talking about. No, it's Chabad House. 8 o'clock. Okay, bye. I'm shutting off my phone now. See what you do? You shut it off. See my phone? The most modern phone possible. Right? I know from Zooms, Schmooms, text, this, that. Finished. So I went through the whole list, told them what it was. They ever said, can Susan understand? The shred of Midrash. And now, they asked the next question. What's tax Shlomo? What do you think? I think of the getting Geld. Not this they help. If I give you money, will it help you? I try not to think, but I'm a human being. Why not? So there was this fine. Then you go to Achodikov, there was right-hand secretary, and they give him the Geld. I knew right away that this is not the answer. And as we're walking out, they asked about, what about this man who died? You wrote something about a will, you buried him. There was a homeless person lived in an apartment nearby. We had to feed him. Okay. Rebbe asked the question. Rebbe said, didn't we have another estate we had to settle with? Sam Fryer? I said, yes. Okay. I could fly back to Los Angeles, same story, go to Finkelstein. He said, Rabbi, I don't need anything. I don't need anything. I don't. Etc., etc. I sat down with Levitansky, we have to discuss the Yechidus. Wait a second. Let's review the Yechidus. What happened here? And I said, wow, the Rebbe asked about Semela and about a will. Let's go over to where he lives, talk to the landlord. We go over in Westwood, a few blocks away from Chabad House, start knocking on doors of the students. Finally, one sleepy-eyed student opens the door. I said, do me a favor. I have to get into Sammy's apartment. Where is the landlord? And the student says, what do you mean, where is the landlord? The landlord is Sammy. He owns the building. By the time it was finished, it was $565,000 that the Rebbe gave us. And the Rebbe said, you may have to, the Rebbe asked about a settlement, so after the end of 120 days, somebody comes to court, guy shows up with a red tie. Hi, I'm representing the family in Israel. I looked at him and said, Your Honor, let's have a recess. I want to talk to him in the attorney room. I took him by his red tie. I said, you're a liar. You know he has no family. You just came here. That's what you want to do? I have in my pocket a check for $50,000. $50,000. You'll take it, it's fine. If not, I grabbed him by his tie. You see, no good will come from this. He took the check, went into the judge, and that was it. So that's another story. But now I would like to shift over to the Chabad House fire, because that's a story of great belief.
Rabbi Kunin, before you shift over to that story, I'd like to open it up again to anyone who has any questions related to the topic of this evening. There's someone that wants to bring the discussion to political things, and I made it clear that that's not acceptable. L'chaim, that's not acceptable out of Farbrengen. That's not why we're here. We came here for a purpose, and we're going to stick to that purpose and focus on that. But in the meantime, if anyone has any other questions related to the subject matter this evening, please feel free to come on mic, ask your question. We would love for you to ask Rabbi Kunin any question you have directly. Okay, Rabbi Kunin, go ahead. It seems like our guests are a little bit shy this evening. They're not typically.
Nothing to be shy about. The only bad question is a question that you've never asked.
Any questions that any of our guests have before Rabbi Kunin moves on?
Rabbi Kunin, I came to Lubavitch as a young teenager in 1970, Tovshin Lamed, 2 years before Shnas Shivim, and I'm offering you a belated debt of gratitude. Your life, I've never spoken to you before, I've never met you, but throughout all of the years, I've heard so much about you, and you were such a great inspiration to me growing up and going through all the years. Now, Baruch Hashem, I owe you great thanks. I remember very
You owe the Rebbe thanks, you owe me nothing.
It's easier to give thanks than cash. Huh? No, it's we all owe each other. There's the idea of arvus. I wanted to mention one thing which I remember very fondly, and I'm quite sure it was at the Farbrengen Shnas Shivim that you were wearing a yarmulke which said on it, all deductions are tax deductible.
Wow, that's a memory of the past. I had not thought about that in 50 years practically. Yes. That's what we do. We come in to somebody's hat, somebody's office, then you take off the hat, you see what it says?
All deductions are tax deductible.
Maybe it's time to make another yarmulke. I have to think about it.
So Rabbi, I have a question about this past week's Parsha.
Okay.
So I'll just paraphrase because I don't have the Chumash in front of me, but it says, Hashem doesn't say send spies out. He says, if you want to send spies out, there's a why that differential where most of the time in the Parshas, Hashem is saying to Moses, do this, don't do this. But in this case, he says, if you want to send them, send them. Why?
Beautiful question. Very well said. You look in Rashi, it says, Shlach lecha, v'dait lecha, as you said, v'dait lecha. The Rebbe explains the word das means iskashrus, connection. The Rebbe explains das, connection. The Rebbe says to Moshe Rabbeinu, you want to send spies? They have to be connected to you. Connected to you. That's why Moshe Rabbeinu changed the name of Yoshua, of Hoshea ben Nun to Yehoshua. Yoshiach Havayim Atzas Meraglim. God should save you from the monkey business of the other spies. Kolev ben Yefune, through Moshe Rabbeinu and his connection to Moshe, went to the Ohel, went to Hebron, the resting place of Ram Yitzchak Bianchi. So in your question lies the answer of Gimel Tammuz. Shlach lecha. You can look around and you say, it's so many years since the Rebbe's physical passing. Why are we fighting on and on? If it didn't happen till now, let's get real. Why are you talking the Mashiach is coming any second? Why are you believing? Why are you fighting? Why are you opening up more and more offices? My son Tzemach, his Yahrtzeit, 42 years of age, the Rebbe Shliach in Century City, died in his home in a moment. We opened up 43 new institutions. Why are you bothering? Why? The answer is, we are connected. Gas, lots of discussions. We are tied to our Rebbe. He gives us the koiches, he gives us the strength to go forwards to our connection. So that's why Hashem says, Shlach lechol adaitecha, they should be connected to you. And they scream, it's a land that eats its people. Why? Because God created miracles. They should be so busy with funerals, they'll have no time between Mount Sinai, a mortuary, Mount Eden mortuary. They won't have no time to see spies running around. So that's what Kolev and Yeshua ben Nun understood. And what did the rest of them say? No, it's a land that eats its people, etc., etc., etc. You have to look with your eyes, with open eyes. You have to look and look and look and look with open eyes. And you look with open eyes, and you know, wherever you go and wherever you stand, I'm always holding you by your hand. Wherever you go and wherever you stand, I'm always holding you by your hand. Next question.
Do we have any more questions that anyone has? Any follow-up questions to Rabbi Kunen's beautiful, inspiring words? We have time for one more story, Rabbi Kunen. Before we get going, I'd love if you can share one more powerful story to send us along our way with the energy to be ready for the day of Gimel Tammuz, the day of the Rebbe's Yahrtzeit, to have the strength to be able to continue doing the important work of sharing the goodness, the holiness, the kindness of the Rebbe's vision with the entire world. Share us one more story to keep us going.
The story of the fire. It was 1980. It was May of 1980. I get a call at night from Yossi Weber, an Israeli student that had gone a little bit off the road. We're staying in the Chabad house. Rabbi Kunin, the building is burning. I screamed at him, grab a Torah and run. He said, you can't, the building's exploding. I jumped out my window. There was dead people in the building. There's dead people in the building. I live a few blocks away, threw on some clothing, jumped into my car, the whole sky is red. Come there, realizing it's exploding, dead people in the building. I come there, in a few minutes the fire chief walks out, holding a painting of the Rebbe, which I had hanging in my office. It's smoldering around and around the frame, but the painting is whole. He asked me, who is this man? I said, why do you ask? He said, because there's nothing left in that room except for this painting. It's not normal. I said, that's the Rebbe. That was the first sign in the middle of the night, how strongly the Rebbe was with us. The next day I looked at the portrait, and the Rebbe's smiling face, the eyes had turned red with tears. I called the Rebbe in the morning right away. The Rebbe says, Livnis on his surface to rebuild immediately. The Rebbe sent $18,000. It should be come true by them. The story of the great rabbis, that after such destruction, after it comes wealth. How do you begin to rebuild? Well, the first thing is we had funerals. 3 people died, 3 Torahs, etc., etc. Me, you can't burn out. So we brought up a mobile unit where we had a minion in it. I'm sitting in the mobile unit. Stocky guy comes in, looks at me. He says, you're a rabbi? Obviously not Jewish, yes. I am. This is the house of kindness. Here's a check for you. I said, thank you so much. He gruffly says, why don't you open up the envelope? I open up the envelope. It's a check for $5,000. I said, $5,000, thank you so, so much. I really, really appreciate it. Why don't you see whose name is on the check and the signature? I look at it. I says, yes. Well, what does it say? It says, Carol O'Connor. He says, Carol O'Connor, that's me. I said, Rabbi Kunin, this is me. He says, maybe you know me as Archie Bunker. I said, maybe you know me as Shlomo. He had such a laugh. The older people would maybe remember Archie Bunker from the television days, Carol O'Connor of years and years ago. He said, here's my personal number. Find somebody that has a television set. Have them call me. I want to help rebuild this house. We did a dinner with 1,300 people. And within a few months, with the Rebbe's consent and guidance, we did the first Jewish telethon ever. And with the Rebbe's incredible miracles, we raised $1 million in one night. That was the beginning of the rebuilding. In this world, there's only 2 types of people. Those who believe, those who don't believe. Those who believe, no questions. Those who don't believe, no answers. It's as simple as that. How could there have been a Gimel Tammuz? How could there have been a Chav Zayin Adar? I have only one answer. Forward march. Forward march. Very, very simple. Forward march. And you have to do it with happiness. But how could you be happy? So you know what you do? You get up and you start to dance. Ham teram bam bam bim bam. But your heart is breaking. Ham teram bam bam bim bam. Bam bam bam. And you go like this. Bam bam bam. Ham teram bam 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 bam. That's what you do. And ultimately you become happy. And that's what it's all about. One more mitzvah, one more good deed, one more non-Jew keeping the 7 right commandments, we can be out of this horrific exile with all of this craziness that surrounds us, immediately with the coming of Mashiach, and we will not have to go Gimel Tammuz and do this and do that, all in Yerushalayim with our Rebbe take us out of Golos now. God bless you all.
Thank you, Rabbi Kunin, for your inspiring, uplifting, motivating, pushing, reminding, getting under our skin, and encouraging us to continue on the path that the Rebbe set forward for us, to forward march until we change the entire world and bring Mashiach, bringing the goodness and the kindness and the godliness of Hashem and the Rebbe's love for humanity, in particular for every single Jew, into this world. This was so special for us. We deeply appreciate it, and we hope that very soon your Rebbetzin will have a refuah shleim and a refuah sheva, and you'll be able to come together with her to Wyoming to Farbreng in person. We would love that. In the meantime, I have one final question. If someone would like to support your important work in California, how could they be in touch with you? Where can they send the check? How can they take an active role in the important work that you're doing in California?
First, I have to tell you, your important role is support the rabbi in Wyoming. That's the first important thing you have to know. If somebody wants to donate to the telethon, which is our fundraiser every year, we have a site online, which is tolife.com. You plug that in, and there online you can contribute. Or if you want, you call up our telephone number 1-800-Chabad-9 and talk to Linda, the secretary. She'll give you the address or whatever, or you give a credit card, whatever you want. But your first responsibility is to Wyoming, not to California.
Thank you. And just a final story, when I called Rabbi Kunin to invite him to speak for our community, he said, "You have to pay me." I said, "How much?" He said, "Find a Jew to put on tefillin, that's my payment." So Leon, who I think is still on with us, maybe he's not, but Leon was my target, and it was a pleasure to be able to be involved.
Wait a second, Leon, hold on. Leon?
Yep.
Are you there?
Yes.
How many times a week can I get a commitment from you?
I'll give you one, and we'll start from there.
You know what? Why don't you give me 3, and we'll start from there.
Deal.
It's a deal?
Deal.
Hold on. I didn't hear clearly.
It's a deal.
Wow. You made me very happy. That paid for the whole show. I paid for the whole show. And you know what? You could send me pictures. Rabbi Kunin, CUNINSR, @chabad.com. That's my email address. Send me pictures. I'd love to see the pictures.
Okay.
You can't send me a what's up or what's down because my phone doesn't know the difference.
Rabbi Kunin, thank you for this wonderful, inspirational evening. And please, like Leon, take on a mitzvah in honor of the Rebbe's upcoming Yahrtzeit. Your mitzvah is literally changing the world. It's literally helping to bring the world to a more perfected place.
Wait a second, for 1 second, while we still have time. Is there somebody else on the phone who would make a commitment with Phil? Don't be shy.
Steve, are you there? Can you hear this? Steve, can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Is
Can you hear me,
anybody
Steve?
listening?
Well, I see some people, I'm not sure what their names are. They're under different names that I'm not familiar with. But if anyone else would like to take on a mitzvah, that's the goal that Rabbi Kunin has set for himself. If it's lighting Shabbos candles, if you already light candles, you already put on tefillin, find another Jew to help them put on tefillin, find another Jew to help them light candles. We can all be a part of the Rebbe's mission to change the world one mitzvah at a time. Please join with a practical, down-to-earth, good resolution, Hachlata Tova, in honor of Gimel Tammuz. That's the name of the game. That's the goal. Thank you, Rabbi Kunin. You are a beautiful neshama. We deeply appreciate your participation and sharing and guidance and wisdom. Have a wonderful night in California, and I look forward to seeing you Gesundheit and Freilicherheit, hopefully in the not too distant future, together with the Rebbe in Yerushalayim, Mirakodesh, speedily in our days.
Amen. Sei gesund. God bless you all. Thank you.
Take care.
God bless.
Thank you, thank you.
My
Thank you
pleasure.
so much. Have a great night. Take care, everyone.
How do I shut this off?